You are live with Get Connected. Mike Agerbo here. I've got John Beeler with me today. We've got a really interesting program. We're going to be talking about EVs, electric vehicles. There's more and more coming onto the market. So we're going to cover some of the things that you need to know if you're in the market for one or potentially thinking you might be in the market for one. So everything on what to look for, things about charging, what you need to look for in the car as well. We're going to cover all of that today. Brings up an interesting story though, John. One of the things that I think some people have an issue with is range anxiety.
Yes, absolutely. It's probably the number one question or concern people have with buying an EV.
You just bought one, a Kia Soul.
Yep.
Do you have range anxiety already?
Well, it's funny. I put the deposit down and the model I bought was not the top model. My model gets 300 kilometers. The top model gets 400.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't sleep much that night. I was like, can I afford to have 300 kilometers versus 400?
But you bought the cheaper one.
I bought the cheaper one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The value. So I have a Tesla Model 3, and it maxes out at about 360 kilometers, but you don't always have it to that setting. They say that you shouldn't have it set for a full charge all the time because it degrades the battery over time. So I've got it set down to, I think, about 320. But if I ever go on a longer trip, maybe I'm going up to Whistler, I will set it up so I can get more juice out of it. So my daughter was wanting to go up and visit some family friends that were up in Shuswap Lake, which is just outside of Kamloops in British Columbia. So it's about a 4.5 hour drive. But I thought, no problem. She asked to borrow the car. And I was excited because, this is an opportunity to see how well it does on, one of these long trips. And she was driving by herself as well. But I thought it would be okay because Tesla has supercharging stations all the way up to Kamloops and right along, Highway 1 across Canada. So there's a supercharging station in Guildford, Surrey. There's one in Abbotsford, Hope, Merritt, and Kamloops.
Pretty much everywhere there's actually a gas station along the way too.
Yeah. And so the nice thing about these Tesla supercharging stations, they are like fire hoses of electricity. They charge Teslas like there's no tomorrow. I mean, you can get a full tank within 40 minutes, depending if you're on empty or not. So I just told her, drive sensibly, don't drive too fast, of course, not only for safety, but the faster you drive, the faster the charge goes down, and make sure you hit the charging stations. She put in her destination, so the car actually tells her where she should be charging. Anyway, she left around 4:00 from White Rock here in outside of Vancouver, where we live. And we went to dinner, my wife and I, with my parents that night. And somewhere around, I think, 7:30 or 7, I look at my Tesla app to make sure everything's okay because it can tell me how much juice she has left and where she is. Anyway, she had like 50 kilometers left, which is not good. Like you never really want to go below 100, right? Just for safety's sake. And so I'm like, oh my God. And so I see she's blown through Merritt without charging. They've got like a supercharger there. And so she's between Merritt and Kamloops on the Coquihalla Highway up in the mountains. And I'm watching on the app in real time, and she's going too fast because obviously she's in a hurry. And I can just see like it is counting down. I've never seen it go down that fast, John. It's like 50, 49, 48. I'm just like, she's not going to make it. And so I had to phone her.
And she's going faster because she's afraid she's not going to make it, which is actually making the problem worse.
Exactly. Because she's going up a freaking mountain, right? Yeah. So that's hard on the battery. It sucks more juice out of it. And so I am freaking out, but I got to be calm, right? So I phone her, and thank God she got reception up there. And, I'll say she was a little concerned as well. And I just thought, you know what? If you don't, and I told her, if you don't slow down, you're going to run out for sure. And so she did slow down. And then I just praying, because I kind of know that area a bit. Once you get up a certain point, you start going down the mountain into camp. Mm-hmm. I was praying for that. because once that happens, then you start going downhill, and the regenerative braking actually helps charge the car again.
Which I'm still wrapping my head around how cool of a feature that is in these cars.
But anyway, I mean, she was down, and not even at Kamloops yet. She was down to like 20 kilometers. And I was just like losing my mind. Obviously not telling her, keeping my cool. But I did a little research, and it seems that even if you hit 0 in the Tesla, it still has about another 25 kilometers of range. Thank God. So I was banking on that as well.
Right.
Anyway, she hit the top of the hill and started coasting down, and it actually started giving her more juice up into like about 30 kilometers of range left. But finally, she coasted into the Kamloops charging station, I think with about 20 kilometers left, which is not what you want to do.
No, it's bad for the battery. It's also scary as hell too.
Oh yeah, it freaked the hell out of her. So the lesson there is, don't miss the charging stations along the way. Even if you think you can make it to the next one, I would always top up on that. Don't drive too fast.
Yeah, well, you just never know what you're going to encounter. What if there was like a sheep herd crossing that blocked her way or something like that? She'd have to stop and wait for that, right? That could also directly impact, anything, or an accident or anything else that happened along the way.
And we'll be talking about that in the show as far as charging. The fast chargers, important to know where those are in your journey, whether that's just commute or if you're going on to an extended road trip. They make a world of difference. So Tesla's got their charging stations. BC Hydro, they've got fast charging stations. We'll talk a little bit about that in the program today, and how quickly they charge compared to like regular chargers. It is quite a difference. So for the rest of the program, we will be talking about some of the things to look for when you are thinking about an electric vehicle. Maybe you have one now. We can maybe give some tips on that as well. When we come back from the break, what to look for before you purchase an EV, electric vehicle. Back after this. You're back with Get Connected. We're talking about EVs, electric vehicles on this program. What to look for, some tips and tricks, and don't forget to hit our website, GetConnectedMedia.com. We're giving away a fabulous prize. It's a Samsung Galaxy A71 smartphone. This thing's worth $550. Fantastic screen on it. Beautiful cameras. If you've got a bit of an older phone, it makes a difference. These new smartphones, they've really upped the camera game, and this is no exception in this one. Again, a Samsung Galaxy A71. If you want a chance to win, super easy. Just go to our website, getconnectedmedia.com, hit the newsletter tab, subscribe, and you are entered not only to this contest, but all of them this year. And we're giving away thousands of dollars of prizes. So the odds are pretty good. So, John, you just bought a new electric vehicle, a new Kia Soul. I bought a Tesla Model 3 last year. More and more new models are coming out, which is great because it makes it more competitive. Hopefully the prices will come down on them as well. But in this segment, we talk about some of the things you learned in doing your research on buying a new electric vehicle, things that maybe you even wish you had known more about. So where was the first step?
Well, the first thing is always trying to figure out which vehicle you want. I had a Kia Soul, a gas-powered Kia Soul. I love the platform, and I really wanted the electric version of it. So it was pretty easy for me to know where I was going. But if you're not quite sure, figuring out, what's the reality with some of these machines? Because some of these machines, they sound good on paper, and then the reality is that when actual customers have them and they're using them, they find that they don't live up to the hype, or there's just a couple of big scary gotchas, for example. So probably the best thing you can do is just find, assuming you can narrow it down to a specific vehicle, find a Facebook group or a Reddit group or the forum for that particular vehicle. I was lucky there was a very vibrant Kia Soul EV Facebook group that's predominantly Vancouverites. So a lot of local, very specific things. A lot of my questions, like how do you deal with roof racks when there's no roof rack holes, or those kinds of things, they all get answered in these kinds of things on these forums and groups. But probably the most important decision is kind of like we were talking about with your Tesla and your daughter, is where can you charge? And the easiest way to do that is to download an app. There's an app called PlugShare, and it basically is like Yelp for charging stations. And it'll show you all the charging stations that are around you. And chances are there's probably a lot more than you even realize. I found out, and I never would have known this any other way other than using an app. There's a couple of charging stations within 5 minutes of my house. 2 of the 3 are free, and the other one is basically free for the first hour and $2 an hour after that. This is basically like a free gas station for my car.
Which is fantastic, but you got to be careful. Like I have 2 free ones near me, but one of them's near a pub, and they're full all the time.
Yeah. Well, one mine as well is near my favorite craft brewery, and the nice thing is it's like a block away from the craft brewery, but it's not advertised. It's literally part of a manufacturing company that just happens to have a publicly facing parking lot with free EV chargers, and you would never find those kinds of places unless you're using an app. The nice thing is when you do get your vehicle, like your Tesla, my Kia does show me where all the nearest charging stations are, what kind of charging stations there are, and sometimes if there's a cost as well. I also found out that pretty much every mall, superstore, and Tim Hortons seems to have a charging station at them now as well, which is super convenient. So pretty much you go anywhere for any more than like 10 minutes, you can just plug in and just top up and reclaim whatever energy you would have spent to get to that place.
So that's what you're saying. Before you buy, make sure that you do have a good network around you. And I guess that's important for a lot of people that live in condos, John, that might not be able to charge their car at their condo yet.
Yeah, well, that's something that I factored in as well, because I have a number of neighbors that have EVs, and they're just using the house 110 volt AC power. Most of the time, these cars come with the adapter you need to plug your car into, basically the wall outlet. It's a very slow charge. My car, yesterday I went for a drive. I was down to about 40%. To get it back up to 100% using the wall outlet, it was about 18 hours on. Basically, it's a trickle charge. So, but on a fast charger, that might be a couple hours. And then on the super fast charger, the level 3, as they're known, it would maybe take an hour or less.
So make sure that there's chargers around you, and hopefully even some fast chargers. The range is important though too, John, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Yeah. It also depends too, because I think a lot of people, and this also surprised me, are interested in buying used EVs if they're off lease. Those types of situations, because you can definitely save a lot of money. One of our producers, Stephen, he bought an off lease Chevy Bolt, and he got a killer deal on it, and it was basically brand new when he got it. But one of the big things you need to be aware of when you're buying a used EV is what's the state of the battery health. So there's a number of things you can do to check that out. The car itself will tell you a certain amount of things, but chances are you're not going to be pairing your phone with the car to get the actual details that the dealership may not tell you or may not even know. So you can actually buy things like a dongle. These are little things you can buy on Amazon. They're ODB2 things, and they basically plug into a port that's on pretty much every vehicle ever made since like the late 90s, and you pair it with your smartphone, and it, depending on the make and model of the vehicle, there might be a dedicated app, but there's a number of apps that will actually give you some pretty good information about how that vehicle is from a battery health standpoint. Because these can be as cheap as $20 to $30. And then you might need to buy an app. The popular one on Android is called Torque Pro. My Kia actually has it's called the Kia Soul EV Spy. They have a free app, and so you can sort of confirm that it'll work, and you get more data if you buy the Pro app. But these generally work best on Androids because of the way the Bluetooth is integrated with Apple. They're not able to connect seamlessly with using the Bluetooth that these devices need. So typically on the Apple side, it would be a Wi-Fi connection. So you can actually get a Wi-Fi dongle that will work in your car as well. It just really depends on the vehicle that you want to check out and how old it is, because the other thing people do is they will get an older vehicle and just replace the battery, and then it's like a brand new car.
But the batteries aren't cheap.
They are not. They're the biggest, most expensive part of the vehicle.
So, I mean, that could be anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000.
Yeah.
Or more, depending on what type of car you have. So, obviously, charging stations around you, the range of the car as well. Buy as much as you can afford. I guess
Yeah.
for the bottom line. Because the more range you have, the less anxiety you're going to have.
Yeah, but just also think about the use cases that you're going to be using it for. A lot of people, good and bad marketing, I guess, in this case, they think it's just like a gas vehicle. So you can like load it up with a trailer and, go to town, but you can't. You have to deal with the impact on the battery of doing that. So that's also why like my Kia doesn't have roof racks. The gas version did. It was kind of like a standard feature with all of them, but they don't have it for aerodynamic reasons. You can get them, but they're quite expensive, and generally they'll degrade your performance quite a lot.
So many things to know that you don't even think about.
Yeah.
When you're buying one of these.
Well, even the manual that came with my car, and I'm sure, I don't know if Tesla has a similar thing, but I have almost a 600-page manual on just the operation of the vehicle, and a 300-page manual on just the in-car entertainment system, because it's so complex and it's so like touchscreen and so many menus and things like that. So like it's almost like 1,000 pages of documentation to use the car.
We're talking about buying an electric vehicle today on Get Connected, some of the things to look for. When we come back from the break, we'll be talking about the overall charging and maintenance of these cars, like what kind of costs are involved in keeping this car on the road. You're listening to Get Connected here on the Chorus Radio Network. We will be back shortly after this. You are back with Get Connected. Mike and John here. Don't forget to hit the website, giving away a Samsung Galaxy A71 smartphone. So easy to enter. Just go to getconnectedmedia.com, hit the newsletter tab, and subscribe, and you're automatically entered. We'll be giving away a few of these phones over the next month. So odds are pretty good that you might win one. We're talking all about electric vehicles this show, some of the things to look for before you buy. Wanted to cover some of the things like charging and maintenance as well. We touched a bit on the charging, John, and it's a big deal.
Yeah.
They're not taking gas unless you get a hybrid, but you need to charge this thing. So either you're going to go to one of these public charging stations, and like you said earlier, they're everywhere now. And we're seeing more and more of these being built at rec centers, at malls, at Tim Hortons, what have you. But there's kind of two different types really that are out there in the world. There's the fast chargers and then the regular ones.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about speed, like how fast these things will give you, like how many kilometers for an hour of charge.
I think that might really vary depending on the vehicle, but generally speaking, it seems to me that I get, I'm not even sure of the math yet because it's still so new for me, but I went to Tuwassa Mills on the weekend, and they have chargers all the way around the mall, and they even have a Tesla supercharging station there as well. And I was there for 2 hours. You basically just need to tap or swipe your credit card to unlock the charging gun, as I call it, and then you can plug it in. And I was there for 2 hours, and I think I got pretty much all of the energy that I spent to get to the mall back in those 2 hours. So 10 or 20 kilometers probably.
Yeah, I find they're called level 2 chargers. And depending what kind of load, if they've got like a multiple bank of them, if there's a bunch of cars there that, the speed goes down on them.
Yeah.
But there's one near my house, I was saying, by the pub. It's at the public library. And, on a good day, you could get like around 30 kilometers an hour of charge.
Right.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Compare that to, like, right now I haven't got a charger in my house. I'm just using the regular 110 wall outlet. and I'm getting about 9 to 10 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, I don't think my car is quite as efficient as your Tesla in that respect, but definitely it's an option. And I know other people in my complex, they're just using the house charger for that. You can buy the level 2 equivalent for your house. It does need to be installed by an electrician, and they come in a couple different flavors. You can get just basically an outlet put in your garage or near your garage that you can then plug in a special charging gun that plugs into your car and get that. Or you can even get like what kind of looks like these charging stations at the mall. It's like a little kiosky thing that mounts on your wall, and it will do the same thing, but it has its own app for managing and distributing the power and that type of thing. The challenge I have with doing that is that it's not inexpensive, and it's hard to reconcile that there's so many free options, at least right now. I don't know how long they're going to be free for. This could change in a matter of time as more and more EVs come online and people get more competitive for these charging stations. They're going to obviously start charging for it, but spending $1,000 to $2,000 to get a professionally installed charging level 2 station into your garage may make sense for some people. But I also factored in the fact that I wouldn't have to do that, and I wouldn't have to pay for a majority of my charges in the total cost of ownership for the vehicle, right? So I'm already not paying for gas. And what I am paying, there was a recent study, I think by BC Hydro, what the average EV user spends on a month or annual basis to charge their car. Again, on average, and no specifics as to how often this is, but it runs to be about $200 to $230 a year. I was spending that a month on gas. So,
yeah, you got to factor that into the cost when you're buying the car. Really, when you think about it.
Yeah. But they also do have a rebate program on right now, BC Hydro at least, where they will defray the cost of getting this level 2 charger installed in your house. I think up to $350 for the device itself, and also there's I think some benefit for the actual installation, which can be expensive depending on your situation.
Yeah, so the charging is important. The level 2 definitely will give you a lot faster. Like I said, I would expect, again, depending on these level 2 chargers, and there's like lots of these out in the wild, and you can get these installed in the home, I would say averaging around 30 kilometers of charge an hour. When you get to some of these fast chargers, that's when it makes a big difference. BC Hydro has got a bunch of them. The one problem, though, for me as a Tesla owner, our Teslas won't work on those.
Yeah.
Because they have a different type of plug and standard, unless I buy a $500 adapter.
Right.
So cheap.
Again, it comes back to, does it matter enough to you to use those stations versus the other options that are out there? And again, you factored all this into your total cost of ownership as well. And, a $500 adapter seems ridiculous.
It is. And I looked online to some of the Tesla owners that had bought one, and they thought, it was a good idea at the time, but they didn't end up using it as much as they thought.
Right. Well, that's the thing is like there is no hydro outlet that close to me or to the office. So it's not something that I would probably, I don't think I have to buy that. My car, I think is
compatible.
Yeah. But definitely it's something I'm not looking forward to try. I haven't tried a level 3 charger yet. So I'm excited to watch the juice flow.
Yeah. On the Tesla charging stations, it is incredible. You can get hundreds of kilometers charge in an hour.
Yeah.
It is so fast. And I think they've done a great job with that, setting up these Tesla charging stations across Canada. So, but you do pay for them.
Yeah.
I think the first year you might get a few free kilometers, and you get free kilometers if you refer a friend who buys a Tesla.
Right.
The problem,
I bought a Kia.
Yeah, thanks for nothing. But my friend Sean, he bought one and used my referral code, and I got 1,500 kilometers of free charging kilometers at the Tesla stations, but they expire after a year. Bastards.
How much is it to use the Tesla stations, though?
They do this weird math. So they say it's 22 cents per minute at or below 60 kilowatts and 44 cents per minute above 60 kilowatts. I don't know what that means, but I'll give it to you in dollars. Like if I've gone and filled up my Tesla with juice, like if I was kind of near empty, it works out to several dollars, $3 or $4.
Right. Which is
cheap.
Yeah. The other thing that we discovered not too long ago too was that a lot of parking lots now have EV dedicated spots where you just basically pay for the charge. You don't pay for the parking.
Or the other way around.
Yeah. And it's at the end of the day, it does seem to be cheaper, and you get a free charge while you're there. And the other thing I noticed right away is all these charging stations are really close to the entrances.
I know. I love that. It's cool. But you know what the problem I'm finding now, John, is more and more people are getting electric cars, and a lot of these charging stations are full, especially during like busy times.
Yeah. Yeah. I was expecting them to be full on Saturday when I was at the mall, and I had to pass one station, but there was like one every like 200 feet. So it was pretty easy to find one.
We're talking all about EVs, electric vehicles today on Get Connected. When we come back from the break, we want to talk about the maintenance costs. What can you expect to pay for maintenance on an electric vehicle? They don't need oil. They don't need a lot of things. So we'll go through some of that. You're listening to Get Connected here on the Chorus Radio Network. Back after this. Mike and John back for Get Connected, talking all about electric vehicles today, what to look for, and some of the things you might not know about owning one. Talked about what to know before you buy, things about charging, and thought we'd talk about maintenance now, John. And I'm actually laughing because before the program, you're talking about your new Kia Soul, and we were talking about maintenance, and you told me that one of the things you noticed is that it didn't come with a spare tire.
Yeah, it comes with an inflation kit, like a air inflation thing you plug in, and it comes with a can of goo that you put in to plug the hole.
So I laugh, right? Because I have a Tesla and I'm like, oh, cheap Kia. And then I'm like, but do I have a spare tire? And I went out and looked. I don't have a spare tire either. And I don't even have an inflator kit, I don't think. So apparently Tesla will flatbed the car to the nearest tire place.
In my Kia, it comes with 5 years roadside assistance as well. For the same reason. One of the things that people have guessed is potentially being part of the problem is that there's no good places to jack an electric vehicle because of the way the battery compartment is on the bottom. Yeah. And it's basically something that should only be done by a professional with a proper lift system. And so they kind of trying to discourage people from trying to jack up the car.
Hilarious. I just learned something about my car that I didn't know. So I better not get a flat. So maintenance, John. I think one thing we're noticing is that there is a lot less maintenance. There's no oil changes and like all the fluid changes that you typically have with a regular gas car. And, some have estimated that the maintenance on an EV or electric vehicle is about the third of the cost of a gas-powered car.
Yeah, I'm. My car is actually actively telling me through the car's app that I have 350 days left or something like that before my next service, which is basically just an inspection, from what I gathered. So it's not going to have the same level of detail that my gas version did in the past. You still have to do things like change your air filter, for example, for your cabin air filter. You need to top up your windshield washer fluid. And, the brakes, because it's a different kind of braking system, but the regenerative stuff, apparently I don't have to even think about them for 100,000 kilometers.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, because in my Tesla, I've got the regenerative braking as well. And I hardly touch the brake.
Yeah.
It's a little weird at first. So, people that try my car, they're like, they have a hard time getting used to the whole braking thing because it just starts slowing itself down when you take the foot off the gas. But that's how it charges itself. And
yeah, they call that single pedal operation. And I just tell people it's like you're driving a bumper car. You let off the gas, you're going to stop. It depends on the level. My car, I actually have paddle shifters to adjust the level of regenerative braking. I can actually press the left pedal and paddle, and it will just stop the car, which is kind of fun.
Yes.
It makes it like a video game almost.
Another thing I get asked a lot, how long do the batteries last on these things? Well, it's relatively kind of new, but from the estimates I've seen, you'll be able to get 10 to 20 years out of the batteries.
Yeah. I think like a lot of lithium ion batteries, they do degrade over time. It depends on how you abuse them. Like if you're doing fast charging all the time to 100%, that will degrade them sooner. But if you take care of it, even if you've degraded it, you might not be able to charge to 100%. You might be able to charge to 94%. Just like my iPhone after a couple of years of use, it's the same kind of thing. And there's even...
It's not an iPhone 6.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And Apple or Tesla just slows your car down to make up for the less battery volume on that. But that's the thing. You're going to get 10 to 20 years life. I'm just kind of wondering, John, how long do some of these electric cars life have now? Like when you hit, let's say, for example, 10, 15 years on my Model 3 and the battery is not that great anymore, I mean, you could just get a new battery.
Yeah. And it would definitely be cheaper than a new vehicle. What really surprised me when I dug into those Facebook groups that I mentioned at the beginning of the show was that a lot of people are excited to get a 2016 electric vehicle because it only has like 100-kilometer range, but they only drive like 5 kilometers a day, to the store and back and that type of thing. So it's, for the average person, it's actually perfect. And you can get it for a lot less than what we both paid for our cars.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So overall maintenance, it's less because there's not as many moving parts. I mean, you've got the electric motor, you got the battery. Of course, there's things like brakes and suspension and what have you, but you don't have an internal combustion engine, right? There's no carburetors or any of that stuff to break down. So the cost is less. Yes, you are paying more for an electric vehicle right now, but I'm excited because that cost is just going to come down and down over the next 10 years.
Yeah, and again, when you factor in the lack of these maintenance costs that you would have to do with an electric, you factor that into the total cost. You're paying more, but you're actually paying less, or probably breaking even if you're lucky over the life of that vehicle.
Don't forget to hit our website. We've got all sorts of great videos up there, tech videos. We've got some on electric vehicles as well. GetConnectedMedia.com. We also have our regular contest. We're giving away thousands of dollars in prizes. It's a Samsung Galaxy A71 smartphone. This thing is amazing, worth about $550. Just go to the newsletter tab at getconnectedmedia.com, subscribe, and you are entered to win. When we come back from the break, more tech to talk. Stay tuned. You're back with Get Connected. Mike and John here in studio. We've been talking all about EVs, electric vehicles, this program. Before we go, John, one term you brought up to me that I'd never heard of before, GOM.
GOM. And basically, when you get an electric vehicle, there's pretty much some display in your dash that will tell you how much range you have left. And it's affectionately known as the guessometer, the GOM, because it really is a guess. The computer inside the car is guessing how much range you have based on your driving style and also a bunch of other factors. Are you going up a hill, going down a hill? Are you using regenerative braking? Are you using the air conditioner? Are you using the stereo at full blast? Are your windows open? Are they closed? Are you towing something? All those things can factor, and those are all variables that can dramatically change what your range is on the vehicle. The other thing that I found out as well is that a lot of these vehicle manufacturers are underreporting the range of these vehicles because of things like Dieselgate that Volkswagen had a few years ago. They don't want to overstate a range and under-deliver on that case. So quite often, a lot of times they over-deliver the range, but also it's just sort of your driving style. In my Kia, I actually have a little display that shows me my driving style, and it ranks it out of 100%. There's 3 categories. So it's economical driving style, a normal driving style, and then an aggressive driving style. And it's being updated in real time. And if you're overtaking vehicles all the time, you get to hit it on the aggressive side. So it's kind of an interesting thing to think about as well when you're looking at range of your vehicles. You might get a little bit more out of it if you're a good, safe driver.
We're going to have to go. I want to thank everyone that helps put the show together, including John and Christina, our producer. Hit our website, getconnectedmedia.com. Got lots of great articles, videos, and how-to blogs. We'll see you again next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube page. And you know that little bell icon? Hit that and you'll be notified every time we post a new video. And comment. The more comments and the more likes and subscriptions we get, the more videos we can make.